a high-level agenda on automating and deploying teams and securing your team's deployment and governing your team's deployment effectively within your organization. This is supposed to be an interactive session. I'll try to address questions as and when they come along. I'm projecting on the screen, so I won't have visibility into it, but one of my colleagues will definitely notate your questions and respond to them as we progress. Please feel free in the meeting chat to document those as we go along. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on talking about who we are, but we'll spend a very quick introduction for maybe a couple of minutes and quickly talk about the people that are representing our company and who we are, and then we'll get into the meat of the presentation. Since this is expected to be a 100 to a 200 level presentation, I'm going to have to lay the foundation of what Microsoft Teams is. This might be redundant for some people. So be spending maybe 5-10 minutes on that. And then I'll be talking more about all the great features that are available in Office or M365 now, sorry, for governing and securing your team. And then I'll be talking specifically around the accelerator that we have built for the deployment of achieving that objective. And I have another colleague of mine joining us, and we'll introduce him as well. So at a very high level, who are we? Our company is called
Akhil, are you presenting something? Because I can't see it. I don't think people can see it.
Oh, wow. Somehow the presentation got unshared. I apologize. Are you guys able to see my screen now? Fanan, can you confirm, please?
Yes, we can see your screen. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I was covering this stuff. So very briefly, who are we? We are a managed gold certified Microsoft partner on all these different technologies. We are based out of Houston, Texas, is our corporate headquarters. We also have presence on the East and West Coast. I'm actually based out of Seattle, Washington. We have people on this call representing our East Coast offices as well. We are split into 6 or 7 different specific practice areas. We have a modern collaboration practice area, or M365. This presentation is being led by that team. We also have a BI and analytics practice, an infrastructure practice, a CRM practice, and Azure cloud practice. We have those practice leads on the call. If you need any specific information regarding our capabilities in D365, the Azure cloud, both infrastructure and development, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to have a conversation with you on those topics. Who am I? My name is Akhil Haider. I've been in the industry roughly 19 years. I have led the Microsoft practice for pretty large enterprises, as you can see. I was a practice lead at Avanade and at Microsoft Dell. EMC Dell, and I've of course been at Microsoft and as well. We also have our blog posted on our website where I contribute, and my colleague who's going to introduce himself in a little while also posting there. And if you need to reach out to us, our social media and contact information is published on cambases.com. Chenna, would you like to quickly introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Thanks, Quill. Hello, everyone. This is Srihari Chinna, and I head M365 practice for Cambay Consulting, taking care of all SharePoint and all sorts of migration and SharePoint migration, Teams rollout, and Teams automation solutions for my customers. So I have experience over 24 years and close to 25 years now in Microsoft world. I've been working here in this practice for almost Microsoft alone, like over 24 years now. So I take care of all this modern development in SharePoint world and Teams world. You can reach out to us for any help that you require for any assessment. I do also IT analysis, roadmap analysis, and strategy build for entire IT. So we process a lot of skills. You can reach out to us for any help you require. Thanks, Shakil.
Thanks, Jenna. Thank you for that great introduction. And let's very quickly move on. So we're going to cover the very quick introduction into Microsoft Teams. And we're then going to go into specific use cases for automating a Teams deployment. Then we'll go into governing and securing the teams, as I mentioned. And then we'll later half of the hour, we'll talk more about our solution accelerator for the deployment of automating a Teams deployment, and then of course Q&A. Before we start, Fanan, can we please launch the polling question at this point, and if you can ask our audience to please very quickly in the next 30 seconds respond to the question, which is basically, does your company have MS Teams deployed today? And whether it's deployed at the enterprise level, whether it's for POC, or whether you are evaluating the technology and its pros and cons.
So we've launched the poll. We're just waiting for responses now.
Perfect, Fanan. Let me know when let's close the poll in 30 seconds, let people respond, and then I'll move on to the next point. Excellent. So I'm assuming everybody has had a chance to respond to this question, and we'll look at the results and adjust accordingly. But at a very high level, Microsoft Teams, everybody constantly asks me this question: what is Microsoft Teams? Essentially, it's basically the hub for all teamwork. It brings together all the different workloads and span of technologies that Microsoft has on offer in M365 in a singular pane of glass. It allows you to have all your all the tools that you need in order to be a effective information worker in a singular location. You have the ability to collaborate. You have the ability to talk and chat with people. You have the ability to have it extended to become your PSTN provider and your calling plan. You have the ability to run, for example, this event and meeting that we're running from Teams. You have the ability to, of course, automate all your business processes by a very powerful integration with the Power Platform and Microsoft Teams to automate your workflows, automate your business processes, and provide true business value to your end users. It brings together, as I mentioned, all these capabilities in a singular location. It has the ability to have user notification. It has the ability to have personalized tabs. It also has bots and messaging extensions. You also have the ability for assigning, managing tasks. The awesome part of Teams is that there are more than 250 connectors and webhooks that are available to you today, and it has a very powerful API through the Microsoft Graph API, so you can actually make REST calls in and out of the system to bring all your information into a singular place for people to collaborate on. It supports the latest technologies, web technologies, and the BART framework. The underlying repository framework is provided by SharePoint Online, which has really evolved into an enterprise-level document management, content management system. And so you have a great capability to to deliver this tool, which allows you to expand the footprint of your environment, which allows you to leverage all the tools in M365 in a singular place, in a singular location. The intent of this webinar is not to talk about all the full-blown capabilities of Teams, but I'm just laying this out there. And the reason I'm saying this is it's a very powerful tool. It will introduce momentous change in your organization. And due to that momentous change that it introduces, if you don't roll it out in a controlled manner and you don't have solutions around governing teams and around automating and who can create teams very quickly within a short span of time, you will end up with a lot of problems. And we're going to talk about those very quickly. Moving into that, let's ask a second polling question, Fanan, before we go further. I'd like to understand if your organization has a cloud-first strategy today. The reason I'm asking this is because all the tools that are evolving in the marketplace are moving the back office into the cloud. We are going away from requiring people to VPN into systems and on hosted data centers. And I'm curious to understand what your particular organization is doing. So if we can launch this questionnaire, and I'll give everybody 30 seconds to respond. Excellent. Okay. So exactly. So it's very important to understand that your content, your team's content, your Office M365 content is now moving from on-prem into the cloud. Therefore, you have to control how that content is actually stored through its life cycle, how the user life cycle is managed, how the team's life cycle is managed. Therefore, the tools that are underlying inside the team's environment also need to be considered from a governance and strategy perspective. And I'm going to talk quickly about that. Before I go into how to govern and secure your teams and what value add our solution accelerator gives you, I'm going to talk very quickly about the business problem that we are trying to solve by automating a team's deployment. And why is it a value add for your business to consider this as a potential solution? Whether you use our accelerator or not, that's a whole moot point. But you as an IT professional, or you as a CIO or a director or a manager in the IT department, or even on the business side, should think about automating a team's deployment in your enterprise. Any solid business with employees should think about doing that. And I'm going to cover why that is right now. The first point is that if you don't do this, what can happen? What are the bad side effects of what can happen? Well, you can end up with what we call about team sprawl. You'll end up with multiple people creating multiple teams with multiple usage scenarios that are competing sources of truth. You will end up with not a single copy of the same file stored in one team, but you'll end up with 20 copies of the same file stored in 20 teams with no controls around metadata, tagging, searching, and so forth, which will lead to a confused workforce. And as per Gartner, 38% of workers spend time every day looking for information that they are actually trying to utilize to do their jobs. We are by deploying it in a structured, proper, governed manner, you tend to minimize the impact of siloed storage information and prevent data loss and also prevent incorrect data from ever getting published and being shared. The other key point is the strength of Microsoft Teams is also its weakness. Microsoft Teams allows you to in the old days of SharePoint and so forth, you had to do all types of funky things to allow external users to authenticate into your extranet and to bring them into your environment to be able to collaborate with them. Well, that all has been solved by Microsoft in the sense that you can actually enable guest access. You can right click on a team and you can add anyone else on the Microsoft 365 platform as long as their company is using it as an additional user in your environment. While that feature is a great feature, what that will result in is potential data leakage to non-company or non-employees. You have to be, I'm just giving you one scenario that we run into. There are many such scenarios that can potentially take place without having a governed and automated Teams deployment scenario in place. I already mentioned that you can end up with data silos. And the last but not least, the couple of things actually, if you don't have a controlled life cycle or if you don't have an automated solution, you don't know who's using the team. When are they using it? How actively it is being used? And what is your ROI for rolling this platform out? If you actually deploy a automated solution from the reporting side, as part of that solution, you can collect all that data and you can actually revert back with your business to see if there are redundant teams or if there are, for that matter, unused teams in your enterprise that you can actually retire and save on your data storage costs, as well as also ensure that you are compliant from a legal and any other perspectives around your retention policies. The other, and by automating this deployment, what you can build those controls where the system can check and report back those items to you. Last but not least, by deploying an automated solution, what you can also do is create templates for the different types of teams that you can provision in your environment, so that every time a new team is being provisioned, it is not being, it is not something that is being handled manually. So the person who is the administrator of the team or the owner of the team rather is not responsible for reconstructing the team every time. This is a great example. If a use case would be like if you have a project team and you use teams to manage projects in your organization. Well, you could have a template design so that when somebody requests a team for a project collaboration, you can use that template to provision the team. Just giving one tactical example again, you can create multiple templates, and the automation solution, the requesting part of the automation solution allows your end users to select the type of team that they want, so that you as the IT professional who is going to provision the team can actually provision it based upon that template. And it allows you to, of course, then put certain retention labels in place ahead of time. You don't have to redo all the work. Leads to huge cost savings, huge human effort savings, and also allows for consistency of data storage and consistency of content storage. So it's a great feature of our solution. And again, if you don't have to go with our solution, you can do this on your own if you choose to, and leverage that capability. But it is something that this potential solution can solve for you. I've already covered. If you automate it, what do you gain by it? Well, you gain efficiency and productivity, as I just addressed. It addresses all your governance issues. You can also leverage this solution to generate reports or any other solution that you build that will allow you to actually satisfy any auditing or other such compliant requirements that you as an IT professional have to provide your auditors or your stakeholders within your organization. So overall, great efficiency advantages by automating the team's deployment saves you a lot of headache, saves you a lot of data leak, it solves a lot of problems around data leakage, data. And I'm not saying don't disable external access as, for example, I'm saying you know exactly how to control it and so forth. And that leads us into our first technical topic of the presentation, which is going to be around the features in Teams that this solution can potentially turn on for you. Whenever we actually deploy this solution for you, we actually conduct a workshop session with you where we collect the requirements that help us define and configure these settings, port or unport these modules in the M365 admin center and so forth. And this can be applied across all the multiple workloads or just be relegated to Teams. Again, I don't have, this is a 8-hour workshop that I normally conduct. In 20 minutes, I'm just going to give you a very high level overview of that workshop. I'm going to pause here, and before I get into these sections, Fanan, has anyone asked any questions at this point regarding what I have covered?
Not yet. Currently, we don't have any questions.
Perfect. All right, let's keep going. So the three main aspects of the Microsoft 365 security approach, which has been discussed, and this is coming directly from Microsoft as in their presentation at Ignite last year, is that it's got a AI and automation to secure your future. So if somebody, for example, types in a credit card in a Teams chat, if you have set up the governance module properly, that entire message, for example, will get flagged and will automatically be quarantined and not revealed, and a notification will be sent out to the user as well as the administrator that this violation has happened. I always try to relate it to common world scenarios of the kind of security and automation that it does and builds for you. It's integrated across devices, applications, and so forth. So if you have multiple devices, BYOD is a very common thing. Bring your own device, bring your own apps. You can have things like selective wipes by only wiping off data that is relevant to your company in case an employee leaves your organization, if they have a phone that is connected to your environment and so forth. So it's a great tool set that has been built by Microsoft, and it provides compliance across the board on all the different workloads that are there. Sorry, go on mute. I apologize. So the approach is, and I will start. This is the whole circle of how the entire risk mitigation strategy comes together. There is the identity and access management piece. So by enabling things like multi-factor authentication and encrypted connections, you can ensure that people who are logging in are actually authenticated into the system. You have ATP, which provides threat protection. There is also AIP from Azure Information Protection and Governance. You also have cloud security, which actually are all modules that we help configure as part of this effort based upon your requirements, and then you can apply it upon Teams or any of the other workloads. And as I already gave an example of the tactical solution, which was the discovery and response of the credit card example, it can be applied to HIPAA compliance. It can be applied to It can be applied to financial compliance, Sarbanes-Oxley, and all those other ISO-based compliance requirements that you and your organization might have. The cool thing here is that that we have the ability in the system now, which wasn't there a generation ago, to provide you for not just safeguarding your privacy, but also to prevent bad things happening in your internal and external controls. For example, in video and audio conferencing tools, who within your organization gets to actually present? How do you actually guarantee that meetings that are video recorded are not externally shared with third-party people who are not registered within your domain, or with guests that have not been given that privilege? The scope of our discussion isn't to cover data protection on the cyber stuff, but if that is a concern for you, we can also talk about that on this. Bringing this back to the Teams piece, what I'm talking about is that everything that is in Teams is cloud content. Everything that is in cloud content is related to your identity management and your data protection policies. It's important, therefore, to configure these in the governance modules of M365, so that when you leverage Teams as a solution and apply it at the template level, it protects all that information. Again, I've already covered that there are more than 90 plus regulation and compliances that are there from Microsoft. This is expanding all the time. It is over 100 between the time that I put this deck together at the end of Q4, beginning of Q1 this year. And every year, Microsoft is expanding this footprint to allow for more controls. For a very quick example, I'll just use this, which came from the Ignite presentation. And you have, as I mentioned, you can control who can do what in Teams, and it can be down to the module level, or it can be at the you can have decentralized control or centralized control. I use this example all the time because we all go into meetings, we all use this tool. So here you can see that whenever we set up a meeting, you can control who can present, who can bypass the lobby, who gets to announce when callers join or leave. And as an example of not doing what we should, we didn't turn on the announcement or turn off the announcement piece. So you already heard a couple of callers join in and leave as we did this particular webinar itself. So it was by deliberate action, not that we didn't want to do it, but it was to show you that this is stuff that you can actually control. What is the awesome part around information protection? Well, it's inbuilt, and it allows for very accurate classification of material. So once you actually create a label, you can apply it across all the platforms of Microsoft M365, or you can apply it in a singular particular location. And you have a single admin console in M365 to configure this. You can view all the analytics, you can do all of these things. And the reason I'm talking about this is that as part of our automation tool, we actually come in there and help you configure this. So when you roll out Teams to your enterprise, these rules are already predefined as part of those templates that we help you create, so that the content in that team is secured per these business information protection rules and governance policies. I'm going to just show you a very quick example where you can set things within a team to private so that people can't automatically join. You can block potential people from outside your owner's or organization to join. You can limit the access of Teams from unmanaged devices. Of course, these all require different modules within Office 365, I'm sorry, again, M365 to be configured, but we actually, as part of the automation solution, help you do that. Very quickly covering data loss prevention. This is that exact same example that I talked about. Like if somebody actually types in a file with has a credit card information, and you can see this being, if the rule, everything in Teams can be governed. So if you're worried about that, hey, yeah, it prevents it in files, but it doesn't prevent it in conversations. No, if the rules have been configured properly and the governance module has been configured in the correct manner, you can see that even conversations can be monitored and the system automatically takes care of that. Again, you have to do this. People have to sit down on the back end and help you configure this. But when you actually design the automation solution, we actually gather those requirements and make those as part of your rollout. Very quickly, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this call, that compliance is great, locking down the system is great, but if there is no reporting on said compliance, there's no point in building this. One of the cool things here is that you can actually detect your violations. And as I said, when you deploy it in Teams, the cool advantage of doing it is that the same rules can be applied across other workloads in M365, email, Yammer, or if you're consuming third-party content and storing it in SharePoint. You have as the admin in the admin center, in the Microsoft Compliance Admin Center, you have access to all these reports, and you can actually share these with your leadership. You can provide them anti-harassment reports. You can provide them anti-money laundering. I've just actually shared these two as an example. But again, this is standard Contoso stuff that we use as an example. But you can think about multiple use cases where this would be a great feature to have within your Team's infrastructure to provide that capability, and then by applying it to Teams, leveraging it across multiple workloads. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but at a very high level, compliance features that are available in Teams. You have native integration, so that if you have insider risk management and you need to create a Chinese wall within your financial organization, you can do that. You have advanced e-discovery, so you actually now can put items, even conversations, on hold. You have the ability to export all of those. You also have retention policies that can be applied on meeting recordings, which are stored in Stream. You also have Compliance Manager for specific actions that can take place within the Teams environment, which is native to Teams itself, which are not available in other aspects. As I said, this would be a much more detailed discussion on compliance, and that's not the specific goal today. But all of this can be configured as part of your automation solution, so that when you actually roll out the team, you get all of these turned on automatically. Last but not least, it allows you to, as I mentioned earlier, and to expand upon it, you can actually have developers who can build apps that listen to team messages, allowing for DLP, data loss prevention action, to be done. This supports a great healthy work environment, and you can also limit what types of attachments, emojis, and GIFs, just as a use case to that can be posted. And you're seeing that in the solution there, that message was effectively blocked. Why is this important? Because a lot of times we build integrations into our systems and we are consuming data from other systems where you might have very sensitive data regarding employee information, customer information that is being brought into teams, and it's important to actually get all of this documented and handled in a proper manner. When we build that, when we actually build the template for you, working with your IT staff, we can actually build those apps that listen to those team messages. So if somebody is actually talking about something that they shouldn't be talking about in a channel, regarding maybe some proprietary information, some patented information, and they might be chatting outside with somebody in your organization, all that can be managed and reported upon and so forth. And it's very important to deploy these solutions, and it should be all automated. So that's my central theme, so that you're not actually manually doing this every time you're setting up a team. Let's quickly ask a third question. I wanted to know, and I have a large screen up, so I'd like to have my coworker Fanan share the results verbally once people have answered this question. I would like to know if you within your organization have uh, rolled out the governance center, and have you actually deployed it for Teams or for any of the other workflows, or if you're just thinking about it. Please select an option that works for you. And Fanan, let's wait 30 seconds for people to respond. And if you can just share the results from a percentage perspective with me after we're done.
Just for this question?
Just for this question.
All right. Okay. So far we have 9 responses. 22% are option 1, yes for remote device management in Azure Active Directory. The same number, 22%, is for yes for SharePoint, MS Teams, and OneDrive. We have 11% for all of the above, and we have 44%, which is not yet, we're thinking about it.
and that's good to know. So the 44, we would love to talk to everyone, of course, but the content that we have just shared with you is very relevant for that 44%, and for the first, of course, 22% as well.
So some people are also responding a little bit later, but I think they're probably not able to, post it in the survey. But I think number 4 is coming out to be the option that's repeating itself from most responses.
Yep. And I think that's to be expected for this audience, and it's great that you guys are proactively trying to learn about the solution and so forth. So we've covered 3 things. We've done a brief introduction to Teams. We've covered why you should automate a Teams deployment. I've covered the business value, the ROI, the true value that automating a solution gives you. I've shown you the configuration options that are available in governing and securing the team as one of the key features that comes as part of any automation solution, aside from the turning off the team's provisioning for everybody and building a workflow solution around it. We're going to talk in the next 15-20 minutes very about that particular aspect of our solution accelerator for the deployment. I'm going to ask my colleague to jump in at one point as well, and we'll cover that piece of the solution as well. But at a very high level, what is the Teams automation solution that we offer or we can help you customize do for you? It can help automatically, it can help create your teams. It can, based on those business events and triggers that I just described, it can allow you to have everything based upon a template, so you can have set defined channels and display names and consistency and in labels and metadata and so forth and search terms available. You can have a life cycle defined around it so that teams that are not being utilized with notification purposes automatically built into the solution can let the people know if their team is not being utilized and to archive it, not just delete the content. So it's not being actively shown in people's teams app, and they can actually focus on more relevant information and search and get relevant content. Last but not least, the solution can make your system very well governed, very well compliant based on all the features that we just covered on the configuration side of things, and automatically we can have users and admins deploy this tool set and configure it so your work as an IT professional or a business stakeholder significantly goes down. So once this whole thing is processed as automated, you're not sitting there as an IT organization clicking on buttons to literally process the team's provisioning cycle. At this point, I'd like to invite Chenna to briefly talk about the Cambay automation solution. Chenna, are you there, buddy?
Yes, Akhil. Thank you.
Please jump in and walk people through our automation solution. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Akhil. I think, Akhil, you have covered everything. Just at a high level to touch base before deep dive into this solution accelerator. So think of this way: Cambay can offer. Cambay is what Cambay is offering for everyone here. Think of team as any generic project. So like requirement gathering, design, development, and deployment and support. So Cambay has offer for each stage. Like as Akhil explained, at requirement gathering phase, we do have workshops that we offer so that we can give you knowledge on what do you need to think in terms of teams. That in terms of we conduct a lot of workshops, what you require to think, what do you need to think on it. And when it comes to design, we do have a good questionnaire to ask you into what we learned from the workshops. And we do configure, as Akhil explained, the teams and admin protection centers and Azure protection centers. And also when it comes to deployment, we do have multiple versions of solution accelerators. So somebody can say, hey, do you have I am already in Teams, but it is unmanaged. Can you provide me a solution accelerator that, with the light flavored or easy and managed, somebody can go request it and request goes to for approval and it automatically created. We do have. And also, you can say, hey, we already have a lot of solutions deployed. How do I manage? How do I control that back into with your solution accelerator? We do have a little over basic solution. We do have another level of solution accelerator who already in Teams. And if you want to control those things back, let's say like, hey, I have teams, a bunch of teams created tons of created. We don't know like who created and we don't know like whether the team owner exists in the company. Do you have any mechanism like how do I know like which team is still exist and whether the owner exists, not exist? Is it become orphan? We do have little advanced Teams solution accelerator, and also you can say, hey, I want to take full control like end to end, creating teams. Somebody can request teams, creating teams, adding channel, removing users, everything I want to control through an app or a solution. We do have most powerful solution that you can handily through your cell phone, you can control everything. So one of the solution, the diagram here that I'm speaking. So in generic, the flow is like a requester can submit a request, and the request goes to. Why we mentioned here Power App is we can have two types of Power Apps experience here. If you are using SharePoint to submit a request, you can use we can develop a Power App embedded form into SharePoint to make it clean and looks beautiful, not too complicated. It's very easy to configure. So we have Power Apps also can embed it to your SharePoint, and where users can submit their request. And the request is, once it is submitted with proper data, and the automated workflow will send email to request approvers. So it can be one approver or multiple approvers. Once it is fully approved, we do have solution to create teams based on the questions or the screen elements that you filled in. Based upon that, we have a Teams automation solution that is, there are multiple ways, like you can do many different ways in the background, like how you create the teams. So one of the solutions that we are talking here is in Azure, most powerful way of doing is Azure automation without any delay. Once your request is approved, it can create in fraction of seconds and send notification to see your requester and approver saying, hey, your Teams is available there. So this is a overall in general process. Otherwise, as I explained, we have multiple flavors of solution around this automation, what level of control you require. Based on that, as I said, in the requirement phase, when we gather requirement from you, we can show you like what best fit for your organization. So thanks, Akbil. You can take it forward.
So to summarize what Chinna just said, the great information, Chinna. The Teams automation solution from us will implement it's a three-part solution at a very high level. The first part is that it will implement a Power App for you. That Power App will have a Power Automate solution that is an approval workflow that actually you will have within your organization based upon your requirements. The second part of that solution is the automation of the provisioning of the team, so that the team then the system goes and provisions the team, and it is based on an Azure-based solution with or Azure automation job executing that task and responding back. And the third part, as Chinna explained, is the configuration of the governance module based upon your workshop requirement sessions that we conduct for you. So we're coming up on the last 10 minutes of this call. I know we get asked this question all the time. We have built other solution accelerators as well. What is the cost? How much do we charge for this? This cost that I'm sharing, the screenshot that I'm sharing with you, is not fixed. If you want to have detailed discussions, our VP of Sales and our VP of and our business directors are on this call. Please feel free to reach out to us. We would be more than happy to figure out which solution works best for you. There are multiple options for you. There is all these solution accelerators have been built by us. Most of them have also been published by us in the Azure Marketplace, so you can procure them from there as well. We can actually sit down and customize it for your particular organization as well. And some of these actually are assessment based, so we can actually do, and those don't have any direct cost even associated to you. So please definitely do reach out to us. We would love to hear back from you. And as I said, no harm, no foul when it comes to the assessment parts. Last but not least, I'll take the last couple of minutes to talk about upcoming webinars. We have 3 of them scheduled in the next month and a half, or 2 months rather. We've got a discussion on our Microsoft Dynamics. My colleague and peer, Gary Kurse, who's the VP of Dynamics, will be leading that. We also have one on the CE, the customer service piece, in April. And then, of course, we are going to talk about the Azure Sentinel and Security Center piece as well. You can go on our website, which is listed. You can also go on our website for the blogs and additional information regarding the Teams automation piece and all this content that you heard today. We will be documenting and sharing all these recordings and so forth with the attendees, and our team will be reaching out to you if you have any follow-up questions. Last but not least, there is also the current offer, which is going on till the end of March, which is a 1 to 2 hour free analysis session. You can talk to us. You can. We would be happy to provide a more targeted conversation to you regarding. You heard at a generic level. Let's bring it down to your organization level. We would also be willing to talk to you about a proof of concept. There are specific workshops that are funded by Microsoft that can potentially help you configure and roll this out, especially if you have not done so within your organization. Again, it's a great tool available to you, and you should consider it because we get the funding from Microsoft to implement a POC for you. It couldn't get any better. You have skin in the game as well by making sure that you can prove out that it actually works to your leadership. And again, as I mentioned, we'll next week share the recording and all the people who registered for today's session. The email regarding if you want to have follow-up discussions is listed right there. And of course, this gentleman has the look that I normally have on my face after I finished one of these deployments. That's a joke on the last piece of this. And we have roughly 6 minutes left. So I'd like to take this opportunity to open up the session if people have any specific questions, to take those from them now. Fernand, do we have any questions in the meeting chat?
Not yet, but I guess we should give everyone time to just ask a few questions.
Sure.
And we'll just give it a couple of minutes for everyone to just think through, put in your questions. And just in case there's no question coming up in your mind right now, because of all the plethora of information that we've shared, that's our email ID right there. So feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer your questions, even post the webinar is completed. So one of the questions that has come along is that how long will be the POC timeline?
Usually, typically, it's a week to 2 weeks calendar time. We try to wrap it up in a couple of weeks. Sometimes it takes longer based on people's schedules, but typically, definitely less than a month. And we try to roll it out very, very quickly in 1 to 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks for an organization.
Thank you, Akhil.
Okay, well, if there are no more questions, we can wrap this up and give everybody 4 to 5 minutes back of their calendar time. Guys, really appreciate everyone attending. Thank you for my fabulous team for setting all of this up. Thank you for all your support, people, all the people who joined today. I really appreciate it, and take care and have a wonderful evening, afternoon, or morning, depending upon where you are.
Thank you, everyone.
See you.